de hoy nos ha enseñado que es necesario estar preparados para el cambio. El cambio es movimiento, el movimiento es vida. La vida es la que nos empuja hacia la excelencia. La excelencia en salud al servicio de la comunidad. En el transcurso de 4 décadas, nos hemos consolidado como referente en la prestación de servicios de alta complejidad. Para alcanzar nuestras metas, sustentamos nuestro trabajo en 4 pilares: la excelencia en la atención, la docencia, la investigación e innovación y la responsabilidad social. Como institución hospitalaria, nuestra vocación primordial es satisfacer las necesidades de nuestros usuarios bajo un modelo de atención humanizado, centrado en el paciente. Para hacer más eficiente nuestro compromiso, apostamos por una estrategia que nos permita atender a cada familia, desde cualquier lugar. Por eso implementamos una ruta que nos conduce por el camino de la investigación y la innovación en el campo de la ciencia médica. No le tememos a los retos que nos plantean día a día en nuestra labor. Somos un hospital universitario, lo cual nos permite asegurar la continuidad de nuestra misión. Creemos en una formación académica humanizada, ética y científica, puesta al servicio de la comunidad. Estamos comprometidos con la responsabilidad social que tenemos con nuestro entorno inmediato. Por eso, desarrollamos diversos programas de atención para la población más vulnerable. Nuestra permanente búsqueda de la excelencia nos ha llevado a romper barreras en campos muy prometedores: la telemedicina y la atención a pacientes internacionales. Los tiempos cambian, el mundo se transforma. Estamos preparados para afrontar los nuevos retos. La innovación y la calidez humana hacen parte de nuestra existencia. Fundación Valle del Lili. Excelencia en salud, al servicio de la comunidad.
Hola, ¿cómo están? Buenas tardes para todos. Soy la doctora Karen Molina, líder del programa de cuidado paliativo pediátrico de la Fundación Valle del Lili, nuestro programa Cuidando de Ti. Muchísimas gracias a todos los asistentes por conectarse a nuestra charla de hoy. Gracias a todos por atender esta invitación y especialmente a nuestra superponente del día de hoy. Tengo el gusto de presentarles a Cherokee Ilse, estadounidense pionera en el campo de duelo perinatal, neonatal y pediátrico. Es consultora internacional, formadora, defensora de padres, oradora inspiradora, autora, madre también en duelo y transformadora de paradigmas. Ha convertido su experiencia personal de duelo como una experiencia para compartir su conocimiento y ayudar a muchos padres y madres en duelo, así también como apoyar el entrenamiento de trabajadores de la salud alrededor del mundo. Autora de 19 libros, de muchos folletos sobre el tema de duelo, incluido su primer y más popular libro de autoayuda para padres y familia, Brazos Vacíos. Le doy la bienvenida a Ilse y muchas gracias, Ilse, por tu excelente participación. Ilse, go ahead and thank you very much for being with us.
Tardes, mis amigos. I am excited and honored to be a part of this important event to enhance the care that you give to families when they have a baby or a child of any age die. Much of what I talk about will be in regards to miscarriage, stillbirth, babies who die in the NICU, but with a little bit of a shift of your attitude you can see that the kinds of words, the sorts of stories that I tell relate to anyone. We are human beings, no matter what language we speak, no matter our age, no matter our backgrounds, and no matter how old our child is. Love is love. I have a presentation that I would like to offer to you, and so please give me grace if we have any problemas, but I hope not. I would like to thank the people who put this together, and especially knowing that this training is dedicated to and sponsored by the parents of Daniel Sebastian, an angel baby in heaven who is dearly loved by his family. It is our babies who inspire many of us to do this loving work. I have been doing this work for over 40 years, and I am touched deeply by each and every child and each and every family, and I hope you feel the same. This has been a difficult journey for many years for me, and because I have been doing it for over 40 years, I now truly understand the beauty and the love and the joy and the satisfaction that I get from knowing that by touching your hearts, you will touch others' hearts, and together we will make this world and your community a better place.
Ilse, can you share your presentation, please?
Yes, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry about it. It's okay.
Yes. See, I forgot that part. There's buttons that I have to press, so I apologize. But here we are. Right here. Thank you. Okay, is it showing now? Yes? Can you see my screen? Are you able to see my screen now? I cannot hear anyone. I'm so sorry.
Ilse, we cannot see your presentation.
You cannot. Okay.
I cannot.
All right, I will stop sharing. We had no problems before, so let's see what we can do now. Share screen. Oh, I see. I missed one spot.
Yes, take a few seconds.
Yes. Okay. Now I bet you can see it. Yes?
Yes. Very good.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
All right. So now let's look at Daniel Sebastian. And remember that why we do this work is for each of these families who love their babies and who love their children, no matter their age. I thank you all for signing in, and I'm excited to share this journey with you. The objectives of our talk today is no matter the age of baby or how or when baby or child dies, we want to do some important things, like we will explore reasons why parents are encouraged to meet and be present and welcome and embrace the joy of their child who dies too soon. And our goal is to help reduce additional trauma. We will discuss success stories, how we have helped parents minimize their regrets and maximize memories. I will teach you about the 5 perinatal loss principles for patient-centered care, and explain the importance of slowing things down. So very often we are in a rushed process when that loss occurs and when caring for the patient and the family. And there are really good reasons why it would be better not to be in such a rush when possible. I will share with you Joycelyn Grace's story through the eyes of her mother, Trish, and husband, Dwayne, her daddy. I will tell you about Leo, little Leo, who was a 16-week baby, born at 20 weeks after induction. Janine and Brad are his parents. I will share with you Leilani, a sweet little girl who had Turner's syndrome, and her parents, Amy and Garrett. And then maybe throughout a little bit, I will mention my miscarried baby, Marama, my full-term son, Brennan William, who was stillborn, and Brenna, who was an ectopic pregnancy. I am happy to say I have 2 living children. Before I work with people, I get myself centered, and I want to focus on the idea that if they are busy and worried and stressed and sad and overwhelmed with darkness and pain when they're with their child who's dying or who has died, they will not be available. They will not be present. So I have created this concept that we help them to embrace the joy and temporarily put aside the pain and the sadness to the degree they can, so that they can be available to create those memories and to minimize the regrets. And here's what some mothers have said: if I am intensely burrowed in my grief and anguish, how can I be present to meet and be with my baby? Another said, I realize that if I focus on the sadness and grief prior to and after her birth, I will miss the joy and beauty. When you say that these memories will give us comfort over time, we believe you, though it doesn't seem possible, because what we want is to have her with us now. I have a lifetime to deal with my grief, but only a few hours or days to be her mommy, holding her in my arms, exploring her body, and making memories that we will always hold on to. And so I suggest to them, what if you can temporarily put your pain and grief and darkness aside so you can experience your baby and embrace the love and joy and beauty while he or she is here? Be present and do your regular parenting. You will then have these memories to lean on and bring comfort in the future. When I worked with a mama named Susie, she said, I don't think that I will be able to do that. It seems so hard. I'll just be crying the entire time after my son is born. But after I explained it to her gently and lovingly, she sent me a note. She had many months to wait for his birth, and she knew that he would die because of trisomy 18, or likely die. And so after a week or a few hours of thinking about it, this is commonly what we hear. And this is what she wrote to me in an email. Cherokee, we are ready to embrace the joy of our baby. You are the only one who talked with us about his beauty, and that we would find that beauty when we met him, because we are his parents and we love him. So we'll see him through his parents' eyes. All the doctors spoke of were the medical problems, but as you say, those problems do not define our baby, Jonah. Love does. So we willingly will make plans to be with him while pregnant and be his parents, his active parents, when he is born. He deserves that, and so do we. Think about the transformation that occurred from I will be talking, I will be crying, I will not be able to really be there, to this. That is a major shift. And I want to tell you that shift is very important, and it's very possible. This is Trish and her baby Joycelyn Grace, who was stillborn. I would like to move away from this slide presentation and show you her 2-minute story on video. Watch how she and her husband actively parent their beautiful daughter. See the beauty, see the love. They now have these amazing memories forever. But what if they didn't? Did you feel the love? Did you see the beauty? If we can help families have this to the degree they're able, by working with them to shift their attitude, it's an amazing transformation to refocus their energy on loving and being present with this baby. Janine and Brad had a 16-weeker who died. He died at 16, but they induced at 20 weeks. The siblings, Owen, Eli, and Ava, were a part of it. But because of my involvement, prior to the induction, Janine and I spoke for about 90 minutes on the phone about making this about their love, not just about their baby's death, and meeting their little one well, so they would have mostly good memories and not lots of regrets. You'll hear me say that a lot because it's important. So I told her to get a hold of the book Brazos Vacios, Empty Arms, at the hospital, and they quickly read pages 7 to 29 about decision making, so they'd be prepared for a call that we had within the hour. So while in the cafeteria prior to induction, we made a verbal birth plan and parenting vision together. They took notes, and then they felt more prepared for the birth. That induction is a birth, and meeting their little one. It's amazing to me how their whole demeanor changed after we spoke. They truly transformed and refocused from one of fear and worry and not wanting to get too involved and not wanting their kids involved, but wishing they could figure out if they could do that, to one of embracing the love and joy and beauty of this little life. I actually got to go to the hospital. It was in Phoenix here in Arizona, and I was with them during a big part of this experience. And it was beautiful for me to see. And the results that I was able to witness there with them, and then have heard from them over the days and weeks now and years since, it showed me that this type of gentle nudging, listen to those words, gentle nudging. We don't ask yes or no questions, do you want to? We gently nudge and encourage them to do this very, very natural thing. And educating and guiding patients, that can make all the difference in the world. Look at this family. What do you see in their faces? Isn't it love? Isn't it pride? And little Ava was amazing. We have this container we call a vessel or a bath, and I'll show it to you in a moment. But Ava wanted to, she had a little oil, and she wanted to dab the oil on her baby brother, Leo. And she'd say, oh, look, Mommy, I want to put some on his head. I want to put some on his tummy. I want to put some on his penis. And she was just this big sister, enjoying, appreciating, touching, loving on her sweet little baby. Now, that baby may not look beautiful to you, but what do you think this baby looks like to them? Look at the children's faces. And she would say, oh, Mom, he's getting red and sticky. We need to put him in the bath. I want you to know that when you put him in the bath, look how that color changed from a ruddy red to look how that's much more of a skin tone. We need to use saline baths, these containers, and we make these what we call love sacks to put around them so that these smaller babies can be in water or saline solution, and then they can the color changes a little bit, and you can get some beautiful pictures that way. In October, a few months later, Janine wrote to me and said, Dear Cherokee, there aren't enough words to thank you for everything you've done for my family and me. I really had no idea what I was agreeing to when I told my sister, yes, find a support person. But it's clear now that lining up with you was nothing short of divine intervention. Losing Leo will always be hard, but we all wouldn't be doing nearly as well as we are if we hadn't had such, listen to these words, intentional, beautiful, and tender moments with him, many of which we would have missed if not for your input, guidance, and support. Thank you for your help, support, guidance, inspiration, care, and love. What you do makes a difference. She goes on to say, I'm sorry for your personal losses. You'll always have a special place in my heart. Then in January, she wrote again, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you. Words really are not enough to express our gratitude. Of course, for the material things, the river rocks we painted footprints on, the crocheted hat that I brought for them, the battery candles in the hospital, reading materials, bear, etc., but also for the immaterial, the emotional support, your calm presence, and the love we felt in spite of just meeting. I didn't know her from before. And above all, for reframing and changing the entire experience for us. You helped us get in the right frame of mind to focus on our remaining ability to welcome Leo with love and to celebrate and honor him in the midst of grief. Your connections made with our parents, I called the parents and helped get them on board, and children, and our own connections that you helped us facilitate with them are priceless. Take note that she recognizes that they reframed it from one of fear and angst and deep, deep sadness and inability to make decisions to one of love. I also can't stress enough how vital the saline bath was. I need to send before and after photos to you to share because it not only prolonged our ability to keep Leo and have him at home for a private funeral. Yes, they brought this little 16-weeker home, had a family funeral, then brought him to the funeral home the next day. But it actually improved his appearance and helped me to bond and have more positive memories, as well as photos I'm comfortable sharing. Above all, thank you for what you do. I'm sorry for the tragedies you suffered, but so grateful you allowed them to inspire you to help others. Really life-changing work you do. The way things worked out on both ends, I know we were meant to meet. I'd like to introduce you to Charlotte and Attila. I want you to see the variety of ways that people can meet and be with their babies. And what we want for them may not be what they need. Let's be open to what they need. This might rock your world a little bit. Charlotte and Attila spent 16 days of living with their dead baby. She's 21. Her husband was 28. They were able to spend 16 days with their daughter, Evelyn, who died at 4 weeks due to a rare chromosomal abnormality. The hospice helped them, and this is in the UK. She stayed refrigerated in a cuddle cot so the parents could take her for walks. So they put her in the cot to cool her body, and then they take her out and they take her to the walks. I saw pictures of her at the playground with them. And they really spent quality time. They took her home then for 4 days before the funeral. What that meant to her, you have to read the article. Maybe you can find it online. If somebody wants to snap a picture of this right now, feel free. But it talks about in the article how she knows that most people would not do this, but she was not ready to say goodbye to her child until these 16 days were over. And so I share that with you to really rock your world and to ask you to consider what is okay. Is it okay for someone to do what they need to do as long as it's within the law? I understand. So that they can come to peace later on. I want you to know that parents get no do-overs when their child dies. This is the loss of their future with this child, not just a tiny baby or a small child, but therefore a tiny unimportant life. They created this life that includes their child, and they have many dreams and plans for their future. They already love him or her. This is the key. It's a love baby who was alive and loved. This is still a love baby who happens to have died. I don't care if it's 6 weeks in utero or 16 weeks like Leo, or full term like my son Brennan, or 4 months old, I think it was 4 weeks old with Charlotte. Our children are loved unconditionally, and no matter what they look like. If you can help us get over that, that would be great. Because when older, if our child has broken bones or burned or are disfigured in any way, we still love them and would still look upon them. We love them unconditionally. Why wouldn't parents do that now when their little baby is born or their child is now imperfect? In their eyes, it's still a loved child. This is a love story, but fear often takes over. Fear may stop them from doing what they might have done if they focused on the love instead. And that's where you come in. If you can help them to understand what their fears are and get over those fears or deal with those fears or put them aside, then they can move to and point out that being every decision based on love is really important, and that could help them make the best decisions. What is fear anyway? Uncertainties create fear, the unknown, and worries. Let's help them deal with those fears and unknowns and see the normalness of continuing to be the parent to this child. This is an important thought. And you will get some handouts, by the way, that'll come in a couple of days, which have most of these things on the handouts. And so you don't have to be taking notes, although you're welcome to take pictures of these slides if you want. But let love drive every decision. Teach them that, not fear. And our goal is to reduce additional trauma. The pain is already intense when a baby dies. So we want to help reduce that trauma. Over 70% of women, at least in the US, who've had a miscarriage, had some post-traumatic stress disorder. When people have memories and mementos of their loved ones who die, any age, they have something that brings back comfort and a chance to share their stories for the rest of our lives. So we want to minimize regret, make the best of the decisions so that those regrets don't create more trauma, and that would be good care. I have a poem. I'm sorry that I'm going so fast, but it's hard to do this in an hour. So please give me grace for speaking so quickly. I don't normally do that. This poem is one I love. It sets the tone. A death has occurred and everything is changed. We are painfully aware that life can never be the same again, that yesterday is over, that relationships once rich have ended, and I will add, dreams once dreamt have died. But there is another way to look upon this truth. If life now went on the same without the presence of the one who died, we could only conclude that the life we remember made no contribution, filled no space, meant nothing. The fact that this person left behind a place that cannot be filled is a high tribute to this individual. And my favorite part is this: life can be the same after a trinket, a small unimportant item, has been lost, but never after the loss of a treasure. Are these babies trinkets to families, or are they treasures? And if they're a treasure, can you help to honor that baby as a treasure? Therefore, we can slow down the process and help them gain control and have something to do as they prepare to meet and parent and love on their baby. I have created something called SAFER. It's a paradigm I invite you to consider. We created this to help you have a good foundation for giving care. There are 5 principles of perinatal loss, patient-centered care, but I ask you to think about if it might not work in the NICU, if it might not work in the pediatric unit, if it might not work in the cancer unit. SAFER. I'm going to start with the first one and roll on through these slides rather quickly. Slow things down and impart information intentionally. Let's go there first. That recognizes that clear thinking and decision-making are disrupted by shock that families experience after a tragic news. Everyone can gain more control and can better prepare if we, and I'll model it right now, speak more slowly, take some breaths, and recognize that they are in the middle of an accident scene. If you were in a car accident like this and you're in that car and all these people are around you and the sirens are going and your head is spinning and you can't think and you're in the middle of this shock and you can't believe that just happened and you want to rewind the clock, that shock and drama makes it unable for people to hear or think or make decisions. It's like a deer or an animal in the headlights. Do I go left? Do I go right? Do I go forward? Do I stop? Do I run? There's no sense of what to do. And we need to slow things down. How clearly can people think or hear or answer questions and make decisions in the middle of chaos? Think about it. That's what's happened when they got the news their baby or their child is going to die, or has had a setback, or is on the verge, or the breath is leaving them. So what can we do to slow things down? And I ask you, unless it's an emergency, like someone is bleeding out or having a heart attack or something, what is the real rush here? So what can we do? Help them to have some home time, not rush off to the hospital for induction if they got bad news that their pregnancy, that no heartbeat or the baby has already died. They need a chance to prepare. Give them that chance and tell them what to do. Don't just send them home to sit there. They need help while they're sitting there. They need help creating a birth or parenting vision, a birth plan. I believe it's more than a birth plan because it's how they parent and be with their baby, how they love on their baby. It needs to be flexible. They need to know that it doesn't always come true, but at least they have a roadmap that helps them have some more control. The timing of the delivery, unless it's an emergency, let's give them time to get prepared, to take some time to call their family, to get settled at work. Their family might come from afar. They might have to let people at work know. They might need to get their kids settled, get someone to take the kids. That takes time. They should not, in my opinion, and I've talked to plenty of people over these 4 decades, it takes time to get everything ready. What's the rush unless it happens at the hospital? And even then it can be slowed down, or it happens and then they go home for a little bit. People need materials and others who can help guide them, reading material ahead of time. The book that I wrote, Empty Arms, called Brazos Vacios, that you have some of them in Colombia right now, that is meant to be a self-help guide so that people can read some pages to offer them ideas on how to live through this. And whatever, giving them something to read, some reading to them, sending them to good sites on the web, can help to guide them. Speak and present information slowly. I'm going to take a breath right here. One chunk or question at a time. This is a better way to speak, not the way I'm doing this presentation. But don't ask a lot of yes or no questions. Do you want to see the baby? Do you want to hold the baby? Why would you ask those questions? It's their baby. Why wouldn't they? Oh, fear. Well, then let's talk about the fear. Let's not ask a question that has a no to, because I can tell you from personal experience, and everyone else that I speak with, almost everyone says they tend to say no due to the fear. And if they open up the window to the yes, they don't know what's out there. They don't know what's on the other side, and that's too scary. So I will teach you how to ask, to provide information, to give them time to make their own decisions, sometimes without even asking a question. They need a good length of time and quality time with their baby. They need to be told this is your only time with your child left on earth. What are we rushing for? Some people think, well, I have 2 hours, I have 6 hours. Why? Charlotte had 16 days. Most people I know get at least 2 full days worth. If they had a cesarean, they might get 4 or 5 here in the US. That's not enough. They have to squeeze a lifetime of memories into that couple of days, but why not let them fill that entire time being time with their baby or their child? The focus should be on helping them to welcome, to say hello, to love on their baby. Before we do this goodbye talk, what are we doing talking about funerals and autopsies? Unless they need to. They might need to. And if it comes from them, then we honor that so that they can move on. But most people feel really rushed. Slow it down. Let them love on their baby. And then offer, when ready, information on rights and laws and policies. I hope your policies are good policies that affirm the needs of families. And regarding testing and self-transport. And yes, in many countries and many places, including we're working hard on that in America, bringing baby home for a while, celebration, memorial events, etc. Help them to build a foundation for healing for the rest of their lives. Tell them to breathe and you breathe. Reduce your stress and your pressure and speed of talking. If I had another chance, I would say, let's do 2 hours together because I wouldn't have to be talking so fast. There's so much to cover, but I hope you understand that the speed of my talk is not the speed of the talk I'm hoping you do when you're working with families. Offer information slowly. Ask them to repeat, to review, to write, to read, to watch. There are multiple methods to enhance information retention. Very few people are auditory only. Very few. Yet that's the way most of us do it. We speak to them. We think they can hear us. They take it in and they know it. Guess what? Most people don't. Visual. Encourage them to read, to write, to see videos, and to watch you role model. Kinesthetic, tactile. Maybe they write notes. They take down some information. They take pictures. Holistic. Then do a hands-on. Slow it down thoughtfully. There are multiple ways beyond speaking, listening, such as reading, repeating, reporting, whole body involvement, and role modeling. That's important. That's why I'm saying it more than once. Help to reframe and refocus the discussion, help them to be present. Sorry for that. That's supposed to say verb. To parent in an actual active way, to gain control and maximize memories by being involved in doing things and being with baby or with their child. Encourage them to have time, but with guidance. Then that helps parents prepare and gain some control. And prepare them for going back to home and back to work, and to settle their children, to inform people, to pack, to bring a camera, a video, to wait for out-of-town grandparents, and keep people to arrive. This rush to the hospital, rush to induction that we at least have in America is really inappropriate and is not helpful. The second principle is to acknowledge, it's the A in safer, acknowledge their feelings and needs within a coordinated and comprehensive environment. In other words, from the doctor's office and the clinic to the hospital and back to home again and to work, that we try to set that environment to be a comprehensive one and not just focus on this little piece of a pie, this little piece of the story. This honors their process and provides guidance. And use your local and national resources. So how do we acknowledge parents' feelings? Well, let me share a story with you about Toni Marie. And it's about how to reframe and refocus while affirming and acknowledging her feelings. She writes, and we only spoke via email for months. Her baby, well, you'll see. My baby was diagnosed with multiple fetal anomalies, and I don't think they are related. I think each one is its own rare disease, which adds more confusion to my pain and why this is happening. My eyes are swollen from crying, and I'm so tired. I want to sleep. But when I do, it's just nightmares. I wake up with night tremors, and I have panic attacks. This is killing me. Yet it's my baby who is dying. Think about that. Think about it from their perspective. If you're a doctor and you drop all of this on them, think about it from their perspective. They need to be hooked up to, networked with someone who can do what I did for Toni Marie. This ultrasound at 14 weeks listed the following: encephalocele, skeletal dysplasia, fetal hydrops, micromelia, achondrogenesis. Wow. The problem I'm thinking about now is I can barely deal with the pregnancy. How am I going to look at this baby? The way doctors explained it, he is deformed, and I picture a monster in my dreams. I don't know, it's all just really overwhelming, and I'm scared, confused, but mostly angry. I'm so mad this is happening to me, and I can't stand it. And even though I would never terminate the baby, I don't want to be pregnant anymore. Carrying this baby, knowing he is going to die, but feeling him flutter with such life is torture. Look at the pain this mother has, the extra trauma she has that we now need to really be aware of and help her deal with. And if you're a therapist or a psychologist, you can be in a position to say the kinds of things that seemed to really help her. And here's what I wrote. Now listen for acknowledging and encouraging her to know that she has the right to those feelings. Of course you're upset. You hear it? The focus is on what is wrong, and you can't help but hear that. But please know that your baby is beautiful no matter what they say. You will find it when you see him. I wish I lived near you. I'd offer to come help you meet your sweet one. It would be such an honor to see him and touch him and hold such a love darling in my arms if you would allow me that privilege. Don't let worries or other people's painful stories make it worse for you. This is your time with your son. Can you give him your love and share your hope for some time with him after birth? And put some of your grief and sadness into a basket that you take out once in a while. But do not let it consume or overtake you. I know, that's easier said than done. I get it. But you seem like such a courageous, open woman, mother. I bet you can. She wrote back that my words changed her heart, and she now sleeps and is more calm. One email. She reframed her attitude. Then she wrote to me again and said, I have another ultrasound appointment, and I'm so scared. And I wrote, the first thing I want to say is this. If, heaven forbid, one of our children whom we love were to be in a terrible accident where they broke their bones and no longer had a perfect body, would we love them any less? Would we never look at them? While it is far from easy to imagine what they may look like, the baby in this case, or our older children in the one I just described, what we parents must focus on is how much we love them. The doctors and the others who talk of all the problems and who don't mean to, but can add to our fear, they do not love them, though they care deeply for you. I know of many, many parents whose babies were not beautiful to their caregivers, but who saw the beauty of their child immediately because of their love. Please consider taking some deep breaths now. Remember, I'm emailing this, slowing things down right now and grounding yourself in the love. And remembering that no matter what, this is your child who has some problems, yes, but is still your loved baby. I'm hoping this will help you to go forward, even today, to the ultrasound. Don't focus on what is wrong, really, if you're willing, but on what is right. You are choosing to give this baby a chance to feel your love longer and to be on her or his life course. What a hard but beautiful gift. The third principle is to fully inform patients prior to decision-making and navigating the journey, which promotes thoughtful personal choices, minimizing regrets. They deserve to know their rights and options, the pros and cons, and the longer-term consequences. They're living in the moment. They need to see the medium and longer-term consequences. Amy and Garrett are the mother of Leilani Dawn. She had Turner syndrome, diagnosed at about 24 weeks, delivered 3 weeks later. Her sisters, Leona, were 3.5, and Evelise, 1.5. I don't have time to tell you the story, but I think when you read what she says, you will understand what it was that I was able to offer. I'm hoping that I'm convincing you to keep doing this if you're doing it, or rethink it and maybe try some of this way. Hello, tomorrows are great to get together. I'm a planner. This has given me things to plan, which help me to set aside my grief for a moment. It's not foolproof. I still cry, but it's been more manageable with things to do in preparation. It's not changing anything or fixing it, because I told her we can't fix it, but it's at least just not simply waiting and basically doing nothing. You helped us to know our rights, that we can spend the entire time with her in our room, to involve our children, how to make the maximum memories, that we had the right to take her home, which they didn't, but they had the right and they liked knowing it, and ideas for cremation, burial, memory making, and so much more. Leona wants to bring Leilani home after death, so she can have her in our house. She wonders interesting things like, will her head fall off? Well, she's got this high drops, and so she knows that the head is a problem. And is she in pain? And she also insists that she wants to talk with the bear we are burying with Leilani, so she can tell the bear all the things that the bear will tell Leilani when she gets to heaven. I'm so glad you helped us to make it through this pregnancy and taught us about how to speak with our children about Leilani. They are not afraid, and we are not afraid. So that's a big plus going forward as we await her birth. Feel free to share stories and photos. Leona is doing fine. So is Evelise. They love the scrapbook. Leona talks about how happy she believes Leilani is being with great-grandma, who died in February. I can't express to you again how much your advice and support helped us. It still hurts, but the whole process we went through, with yours and Melissa's help, removed the despair. This is Leilani. Her head is really quite large. And if you look at the picture on the right, we decided, well, what if, and we asked for permission, Melissa and I, we're doing this work. We're called baby loss advisors. We said, what if we put some flowers around her face so it more defines her face? Because the head was really large and it was hard to see her eyes and her nose and her mouth. And so they thought that was a good idea. And this is the picture I ended up taking. And that's the bear. It says Leilani Dawn on it. I did that with my sewing machine for them. And this bear would be buried with Leilani. Now look at Leona. Do you see fear in her face, or do you see sisterly love? That baby's face is bare. It's hard to find in this really large shaped head with all the fluid, but it didn't bother her. She got a chance to meet her sister. And look how she's holding on to that bear. Amy and Garrett. Garrett had said he would not probably want to hold that baby ahead of time. He didn't know if he wanted to see her. But at one moment I was standing there and the nurse asked to help she needed to help Amy, who's holding Leilani. And so then I said, well, Garrett, can you hold her? Do you want to hold her? And he said, oh, okay. And he touched and cuddled her so tenderly. I watched his thumb just caress her arm. It was so beautiful. What they think ahead of time may not be what happens when they meet their loved child. Don't ask them a yes or no question in theory. Help them to just be present and meet their child. This daddy who didn't want to see his baby did. And he wrote a beautiful note to her in that envelope in her casket. And I apologize if this is hard for some of you to see. I should have said that earlier. But I just want you to remember these are loved babies who happen to have died, but they're still loved. And he writes, to my beloved daughter, Leilani Dawn Roberts. The fourth principle is empower and guide and help, which are more positive and respectful and productive than protecting and rescuing patients. Protectionism creates dependence, doesn't it? And empowerment builds independence. And a rescuer takes on the pain and is in charge. But the helper assists them help themselves. Be a guide and a teacher and recognize that they don't get a do-over. And if you ask questions, they're going to say no. So don't ask those kinds of questions. So protectionism, the definition I found, which I believe is true, is to keep them from harm, defend them, guard them, to keep the weaker ones safe. That creates dependency and a potential for blaming or crediting the protector. Are you their protector? Is that really helpful? What about empowering them and advocacy and preparation and facilitation? That means to make ready, to get ready, to aid in beginning and deciding and acting. That creates more independence, more self-reliant people, and it gives them back control. Let's use an example here. Protectionism. I don't want to bring it up. It'll cause them too much pain. They might cry. Who's in charge? You are. Should you be? What if you said instead, do you want to tell me what has happened to your baby Juan? I'm here. I'll listen. And they might say, no, not right now. And you say, that's okay. But you open the door. The other one, you close the door. Another example, you probably won't be able to read this right now. We'll let you know what to do next. You're not capable. I'll protect you. It's too much. You won't be able to read that. Bracios, faces. I'm sorry, I screwed that up. The Empty Arms book. Instead, you could have said, you will want to read this, especially these pages, or have it read to you to help you make decisions. It explains the pros and cons of each and to help you know what will come next. Do you see the difference? One is giving control to the person. One is keeping control. And the rescuer, to make it all better or fix it. Let's face it, you can't. Why try? You try to take their pain away. You can't. To blast sunshine into their dark tunnel of grief as if you can now bring in the sunshine and all will be well. You can't. To control their decisions. You can. But are you rescuing them? Are you really helping them? To know best what they should do because you know best. To focus on how to answer the decisions and what they should decide so they don't have to stress doing it. So you're going to tell them. Now let's look at helper instead, where you sit beside them and listen to their pain. You know, they've been dashed to the bottom of a huge canyon in the middle of a rain, thunder, lightning storm, and it's wet. They're in this little small lake or puddle. And will you sit beside them? Will you companion them and be next to them? Or will you try to fix it and make it better and pull them out and, let's be done. Let's get you to some place where you're dry and warm in their sun. Because now I know you'll feel better. That's not their process. That's your process. Allow their feelings and affirm them. That's that earlier when we talked about affirmation. And let them have those feelings. Of course you're sad. Of course you're upset. Of course you wonder what to do next. Of course you're in shock. Be an advocate. Guide them to make decisions, but don't tell them what to do. Bring light into their tunnel of grief with a hug. A little candle, a small bit of flashlight. But you can't bring in all that sun. Offer guidance and warmth and wisdom. Show belief, that you have belief that they can make it. Tell them stories of others. And the last of the 5 principles is to respect and treat them as parents and honor their loved baby. which improves care and legitimizes their story. You know, like, Mom, Dad, you did a good job birthing. This is a mama who had to go through birth, some kind of birth. Doesn't she deserve to be treated like a mother? Good job. You had the ultimate. You know your baby had already died, and yet you hung in there and courageously gave birth to this baby. I'm proud of you. What a beautiful thing. Telling them about parenting tasks to be done by them when possible. Are you the parent or are they the parent? You respect them most when you encourage and teach them how and why to do it, and honor their baby as loved, not focusing on death. So respect them as parents. Prepare them for the preparation for parenthood begins early. This is their chance to parent their baby. The expectations of being a parent means bathing and cuddling and rocking. Don't be the one to parent for them. Let these memories be theirs. How many times will they get to do these things, to diaper and dress? One or none? Or for those children who are older, how many more times will they get to take their temperature, wipe their brow, help to dress them? Don't be the ones to do that. Let them be the ones to do that if they're willing and able. Touch, sit, listen. Treat her like the mother she is. Don't protect her from things. Empower her to be the best parent. No matter their age, they are present. So now as we get ready to close up here, you will have handouts, and they do have all of these listed. I was asked if I could help you to know what to say and do. Before we jump into that, I just want to say that what you say has to come from your heart. And so if you have the right attitude, the attitude of helping them minimize their fear, the attitude of helping them reframe things, the attitude of wanting not to do it for them and protect them, but to guide and help and support and be a puddle sitter, if you will. If you have that attitude that you want them to experience this process with someone beside them, not fixing it for them, but listening and not judging them, that's what will help you then to know what to do and say. So here we go, a couple of slides on what to do and say. Treat her like a birthing mother. And when I repeat things, it's for a reason, because I don't want you to just hear some of these important things once. Do not overdo the sympathy. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. 15 of us come in the room and we all say, I'm so sorry. It's just not a good place and space to, create a beginning of a relationship. So she's a mother like any other mother, but happens to have death as a part of her story. However, her baby is not defined by death, rather by love. In fact, I say this to people. I literally help people every week, sometimes more than one a day, mostly on the phone. And I say to them, this miscarriage does not define your baby. Cancer does not define your child. Stillbirth does not define your baby. A trisomy 18 does not define your baby. You know what defines your baby or your child? Love. Ask her about her labor. Ask them about their memories of their child when their child was growing up, for those that are, maybe die later. Give her all that you give other birthing mothers and their partners too. Say things like, this is hard and so unfair. No one prepares us for such things as this, but I can tell you what will happen next and what your options are. The decisions you make now will be the foundation you live upon for the rest of your life as you incorporate your child into your life. We have materials and people to help you to see the pros and cons of these decisions. Why don't you think about them, and we'll get back and talk about that a little later. Connect as a human being. That's the heart part. Don't only be a human doing things. That's the head part. We need to be both, head and heart. Listen and be patient. Some silence is fine. Ask open-ended questions. Offer the pros and cons first. Give them time to think about things and then come back to hear their thoughts. I'm going to give you an example, and then here's another example. They have other children, and you might say, now I'm not asking a question. Let me know when you hear the question. So your children at home, have you thought about the idea of bringing them in to meet their sister? This will be their only chance to meet her while she's still on this earth. And even though she's died, kids are resilient. They can handle it. Many of our families have done that, and we certainly know some who chose not to, but a lot of the ones who choose not to wish they had. Actually, it's because the kids say, why am I not in that picture with my sister? So, we can help you to understand like how to help them be comfortable. We can have some colors and color crayons and some artwork and beads to make bracelets. And, they can bring in some stuffed animals. You can snap some pictures, take some videos with their phones. This is a chance for them to be present also and to have some memories. And even if they're little, they'll be in the pictures and you can talk about it later. But just think about it and I'll get back to you a little bit later. Did I even ask a question there? I don't think I did. Why do we always have all these questions? Why not give information and give them time? For example, this is the only time you'll have on earth to parent your son. We hear from parents who were actively involved with mothering their baby, how grateful they were to be encouraged to do that. Think about how you'd like to meet and be with your son, and we'll talk about it later. Cultural awareness, personal sensitivity. Are there things about your culture, religion, your family, your values, your tribe, whatever that I should know in order to help you? Because don't assume that because they're a certain religion or of a certain background that they will act in that way. That's not fair. They're a human person and they might choose to do it differently. Work to create a relationship. Relationship is everything. I can create a relationship on the phone like nobody's business because I'm sitting in the puddle beside them and I am honest and forthright and I speak from my heart and I tell them that. Build trust. Use those 5 principles if you wish, as much as you can. Listen for their fears, concerns, and ideas. Give the pros and cons to every decision so they are not just a yes or no question. You hear it. I've said it again and again. That's an art, and I hope you master that art. Many parents will say no because truly it's easier, and their fear keeps them from engaging with you and with this situation. Lay out more of the story of each option and let them think about it before answering. You could say, I'm sorry to tell you, but I believe or I see that your baby may not live much longer or has died. Use the words. Say you're sad or sorry, or this is hard for me to tell you. Don't just drop the bomb with a heartless message. Bring your heart in and say it gently. I'm sorry to meet you or your baby under these circumstances. Boy, she sure is beautiful. Most of our babies just stay with mommy and daddy the entire time you're here. I can help make that happen. For now, let's get Lucia a bath. And while you bathe her, look at everything. And we'll take some pictures and videos too. You'll want to capture it all. Who does she look like? Look at her nose, her forehead, her hands and her feet and her chin. Tell me about who in her family she looks like. When I saw Trish's nose up against little Joycelyn's nose, I thought to myself, they have the same nose. It's so sweet, and it really normalizes the whole situation. Ask if you can call someone for them, or do they need a few moments alone, or can I sit with you for a bit? When in doubt, what should I do? What do they need? When in doubt, check it out. Ask. We're here to be on your team. We can help you get through this. I'll help you in any way I can. I am on your team. At some point, let's talk about how to answer the hard questions like, here's one that's really tough. How many children do you have? Here's what some of the people have told us. I have one who will always live in my heart. Or I have 2, one in our home and one in my heart, or one in heaven. Or we have 3 children, one who has died at birth and 2 living. Or like sometimes I'll say, I have 2 living children. I have 2 living sons. You can ask me if you want to know more. I don't always choose anymore to say Marama and Brennan and Brenna. I've said their names a lot. I don't feel the need to do it every time. But in the beginning, a lot of people have that need. I hope you talk about with them that their milk will come in. And we'd like to help you know what to do. I wonder, can she donate milk? Is that something that's an option in your facilities, in your community? If not, what do you do to offer help with how they dry up the milk? Because it can be very painful. And it's another kick in the pants, kick in the stomach, slap in the face when the milk comes in. Do you know about Cabo cream or cabbage packs or antihistamines or anything that can dry up that milk? Please help them to understand that the more people who meet the baby, the more stories and memories you'll be able to share with them and the more support you're likely to get. So don't just keep this between the 2 of you. if possible, invite people in to meet her or bring her home and have, that daughter or son amongst the family so that they all will have shared memories. I hope that this has been helpful for you and that you realize that you have an important and key opportunity to really be present yourself with families, to slow it down. I'm going to use that safer model, to acknowledge their feelings, to fully inform them, to respect, SAFE, to empower them rather than protect them, to help them rather than to rescue them, and R, to respect them as parents. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for this opportunity to support your important work with families who have brazos facios. There are 2,000 of you on this. I'm just blown away that I have this amazing opportunity to share with you my 4 decades of experience based upon my own personal losses of Marama, Brennan, and Brenna, and all the people who have touched my heart with their babies and their children. I am pleased to be of assistance and welcome other ways that I may help you. Thank you for caring and wanting to be a better guide and a provider to these hurting families. You are making a huge difference. And I am grateful to have had an opportunity to be with you. So before we go to questions, I want to share with you this beautiful poem, a love song. The mention of my child's name may bring tears to my eyes, but never fails to bring music to my ears. If you are really my friend, let me hear the beautiful music of his or her name. It soothes my broken heart and it fills my soul with love. Nancy Williams. Thank you.
Hi, Cherokee. Thank you for such beautiful, touching, and loving presentation. You really shared a knowledge with us that is priceless. So thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Now we're going to open for Q&A. So to the audience, if you have any questions, just feel free to post it in the chat room. Now our first question is, what are your thoughts about why some healthcare providers struggle to deal with babies or children in end of life conditions? How can we be more compassionate in those moments?
That is everyone's question. The ultimate is when someone you love dies, and especially when it's a child. Of course, it's not going to be easy. It shouldn't be easy because you recognize the pain that you would feel if it was your child. And you can see it in their eyes, in the way, the screams. Of course, it's hard. But what I think I've been doing today is to help you to understand that if you bring your heart to the table, if you bring your heart to the moment, if you sit with them and recognize and share with them that it's hard, that you're in pain too, but you're here to help. And if you add to your toolbox of ideas and ways to help them, then you come with head, tools, strategies, words, and heart. Love, care, concern, compassion. And that is my goal. I hope some of that came across today, but I recognize that it can't be easy for you. I actually wrote a book called Giving Care, Taking Care, Support for the Helper. You deserve help and support too. Good question. Thank you.
Thanks, Cherokee. Now our second question is, what grief strategies do you recommend to practice with patients in the moment of death that could contribute positively to their grief process in that particular moment and in the future?
That's a really great question too. I feel like in some ways, that's what we've done. That's what I think my 5 principles of patient-centered care does, is that if you model to them that, I use these words, if you love deeply, you will grieve deeply. So how do we help them grieve deeply? We help them create memories. We slow it down. We affirm their feelings. We fully inform them of their options. We literally respect them as parents, and we also empower them without doing it ourselves. So the more that you can help them know that grief is okay. Know that they love this child a lot. Even a miscarriage. They'll say, I don't know why I'm so upset. It's just a miscarriage. Did you love this baby? Was this a love baby? When you love deeply, you will grieve deeply. And that's a part of how you get better. You must mourn them. But a part of mourning them is to help make sure they have a lot of mementos and memories and ceremonies. So at the hospital setting, that's your job, I think. Your job is to help them be getting these memories and mementos so that they have a basket full to hold on to for later on. You are helping them with their grief by doing these very kinds of things. I'm sorry if that feels repetitive, in terms of what I said in the slideshow, but I really think the keys to a lot of this are contained in the handouts that you're going to get, which is repeating a lot of it. I wrote it all down for you because I didn't want you to have to just remember it.
Thank you, Cherokee. Now moving on to our third question. What tools can you share with us for the self-care of healthcare providers who are constantly facing the pain and the death of our patients?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. You really need to deal with your own pain, or you won't be able to deal with theirs. The back cover of that book that I wrote, Giving Care, Taking Care, and I don't have very many copies left at this moment. The word wasn't really out there much, but I write, if you do not fill your lamp with oil, how will you shine? If you do not debrief so I would suggest, let me do it in a positive way. Find people to debrief with, to get it out. See, just like families, they have anybody who has a death, they have pain and pressure inside of them. And they need to find ways to get it out, to speak it, to write about it, to write songs about it, to listen to music, to cry, to throw things, to hit things, safely. And so you have those same kinds of needs. So if you can find ways to get it out through debriefing, through writing, music, taking hot baths, seeing a therapist, talking with your chaplains, talking with social workers, the same things that we want them to do are things that we, the care providers, need to do. And you might not think you do, but you do. Because how will you shine if your lamp has no more oil?
Thanks for those wise words. Now, moving on to our next question. What type of follow-up shall we offer to grieving parents, and how often shall we follow up with them?
Yes, I would be happy to send you a follow-up handout, Laura, and that you could add in. It might have to come later because they're translating everything into Spanish. So thank you for doing that. But I have some recommendations on that. I believe that check in after a couple of weeks to make sure they're okay, and I would hook them up with others or support groups. People like what you do, to help people gain support. So within a couple of weeks, just to make sure they're okay and to ask them specifically about their support. Someone should be calling them. A note, maybe after a month, checking in on you and sharing what your memories are of that baby or that child, because that's something they can put in their scrapbook then. And then I find that between about 5 to 6.5 months after a death, it seems to happen a lot, but not to everyone. Around that time, shock wears off, the food stopped coming, people stop asking, we're supposed to be back to normal at work. And in fact, the shock has worn off, and the awareness is great that, yes, my loved one really did die. And people can feel worse at about 6 months or so than they felt at the time. Because remember, shock insulates us. It protects us. It's like a fog around us. So I think if we all didn't have shock, lots of us would jump off bridges. I really do. I mean, I wanted to die, but I was so much in shock, I didn't even know how to do that. And I don't think I had the full sense of it. But at 6-ish months or so, I did. And then I was glad that I was getting support and talking with people, and I was writing my book, Empty Arms. And, so I would check in with people about 6 months around that time, or 5 months, and let them know if they're feeling worse. It doesn't mean they should be suicidal. It doesn't mean that they have lost it. It just maybe means they ought to get some more help and recognize that that's normal. And this might be a good time to see a counselor or a therapist. Although I encourage you to do it earlier, before you feel like you have to jump off that bridge, before that cliff is, an impending death sort of experience. The sooner we get help, the better. And then 1 year. 1 year. At 1 year, I would send them a note or have somebody make a phone call to just check in with them, because there's always those anniversaries, a due date, a holiday, an anniversary. Those would be times to also check in. If you can spare the people to do it and make that commitment, it would be wonderful.
Thanks, Hiroki. Now our next question: how can we build memories with the older brothers?
With the older brothers, do you think that maybe means a baby?
Of the baby or child who passed? Yeah.
Yes. I just wrote a book, and it is available, although not in Spanish, online, called "Are You Sad, Mommy?" And it's good, especially for the younger children, to help them better understand miscarriage and loss of, a sibling who didn't come home. Involve them. Find ways to involve them. Maybe they pick a toy to be buried with the child. Or I like to use stuffed animals a lot. And I say, maybe you pick an elephant or a bear or a zebra, and they go and get one, but they buy one for themselves too. And they have it buried with their sibling. And then they have one to be reminded of it as over time. We had a bear called, that was Brennan's bear, didn't have a name. And I kept it. I got it at a baby shower. So when my kids were like 3.5 and 1.5, they started arguing over the bear. That's one of the stories that I wrote about in the little children's book. And I said, you can play with this bear, but this is not your bear, Kellen. This is not your bear, Trevor. This is your baby brother who is older than you, but died at birth. That's Brennan's bear. And so Brennan would want you to play with it, but it's his. And so finding toys or animals, having them maybe write something, or taking videos and pictures of them, maybe making a scrapbook with them, maybe making bracelets or some special craft item, so that they feel involved and they have mementos and they have an opportunity to share memories and stories with family. And then once you start, you'll just, over time, birthdays, get birthday cakes, have them. We were driving once, and my son was 7. Trevor, the oldest, Kellen, was 7. Trevor was 5. And I said, oh, it's Brennan's birthday today. And, he would be 8. And Kellen saying, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. You act like a monkey and you smell like one too. And Trevor thought about it, and he said, my baby brother doesn't smell like a monkey. That's mean. You shouldn't tease him like that. And Kellen thought, and he said, if he were here, he'd be teasing me. So I think it's okay that I can tease him. That's normalizing it and involving them, and it's a part of the story.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. We do have a couple of more questions. So the next question is, if because of institutional norms and regulations, we cannot take photos of babies or children who have passed, what else can we do?
Well, first of all, I want to ask, that's how it used to be here. Not couldn't take them, but they didn't take them. And I just want to say, change that. It's not okay. And if a parent wants a picture, why can't they have one? Fight that system, change that system. It's really, the whole system needs to change, because I just want to ask you this. The short answer is get every other memento you can. Okay. But to me, that's not good enough. I don't have any pictures of Brennan. I should. I said no. They should have taken one anyway. I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. But I want to say this. What if all your loved one, any loved one, someone who's real dear to you, your grandmother, your wife, your husband, your mother, your father, what if all the pictures and all the mementos were in a house fire and nobody had one? And now you have children who grow up and, you want to share stories and pictures of your loved one, but they all burned. Is that okay? I've thought about that. I've thought, if we had a fire, I'm so glad that I send pictures off to my family, because I could at least get some back. But what if every single picture doesn't exist anymore. Is that acceptable to you? These families have no pictures except the ultrasound of their baby. I cannot remember what Brennan looked like. That's not okay. So, yes, I'm sorry that is a rule. I don't understand that rule. I know of no other country personally that has that rule. New Zealand, Australia, the UK, America. I've never heard that in Mexico. I don't understand that. And so I'm really sad about that. But I want to say that we didn't do things that we do now here in America. And I was one of the people who changed it. It just takes one person to influence more people, to influence more people. Maybe we shouldn't accept it. Maybe we need to try to change it. But then, Adam, I don't know. Why can't they take a picture with their phone? Tell them to take a picture with their phone. Do you have phones that have to take pictures? Most people around the world, unless they're really poor, have phones. So I'd find ways around it because pictures are very important. Imagine your loved one, not a picture. And you have to explain that to your 4-year-old son who never met that person who you loved, their mother or grandma. Sorry, I don't know exactly what you wanted me to say, but I just have to be really honest. Fight it, fix it.
Thank you. Now, the next question is for those women who are faced with difficult decisions and that for some reason end up having a miscarriage, but by choice, or an abortion, if you can call it. Would those women be candidates for follow-up in terms of grief?
Absolutely. But I want to tell you that I talk to those people all the time. And I do the same thing that I did here. I do the same thing with them. I help them to understand that this is a loved baby and that to collect memories, to try to see that baby, especially, if they induce and rather than D&Cs and D&Es, I don't know how you handle it there. But even then, they can take the remains and bury them and treat this as a loved child. So they absolutely are grieving. And I'm going to say even people who choose it because it's not a loved baby, if that happens and you run into people, I've had a lot of those women say to me, I had a funeral in my mind. I am grieving. There's books about that. People tell their stories that they are grieving and they have less support because of the choice they made. So absolutely, they are candidates to be receiving grief support, and maybe they want to name those babies. Maybe they want to create some mementos even later of those babies. By the way, I didn't say one very important thing, and that is it's not likely that 100% of all couples and women will want to do the kinds of things that the families I've been sharing with you did. If after trying this and trying that and saying it this way and offering this loving opportunity, they still say no, we must respect their no. You do not want to force someone to do. They may come back and say, I wish you would have, but we can't save every starfish, as they say, everyone on the beach. There's millions of them. We can only save the ones we can save that we throw back into the ocean. And so if they insist, even with gentle nudging and persistence, which is what I do, a lot of persistence, a lot of gentle nudging, I explain the why this is important. If they say no, it's okay. Then don't do those things. Because they have that right. They are the parent. They get to decide. I apologize that I didn't make that clear in my earlier talk.
Okay. Then the next question, and it's somewhat similar to a former one, so maybe you want to expand on the idea. It's what suggestions do you have for the grief of siblings related to the child or baby who passed? Mm-hmm. Is it important for the siblings to be there in the moment when the child or baby is losing his or her life?
The last part, in the dying, is it important for them to be there? I don't know about that. It depends on the personality and the resilience of that child. But I certainly know what's happened. But I am a believer. I have an education background. I've been a teacher. I do a lot with children. I know a lot about the psychology of childhood and child development. I do believe that the children need an opportunity to be involved, that we don't keep secrets from them, that this is their sibling too. They will grow up without this sibling on the earth, but they will be in the family. So finding ways to continuously involve them and invite them to draw pictures, to write notes to them that we maybe burn or that we maybe put in a scrapbook, to Christmas cards that we send out. Maybe they want to draw an angel or get an angel stamp, or maybe they want to write that baby's name or that child, their sibling who died of any age, in that card. Finding ways to give them a voice and a chance to be involved seems to help them be healthier about how they handle grief and loss and how they deal with this in their family. I have to say that I involved my children who came after two of the babies who died. I involved them constantly. And so we would read a book, Bambi, and Bambi's mother died. And so I'd say, what do you think about that? And they'd say, well, nobody's mommy should die. Why did she die? And then we talk about death. And, when someone I know died, I can't remember the story exactly. And Kellen was maybe 3. And he said, well, where did they go? And I said, well, the babies or that person's body went to the earth, but the soul went to heaven. He goes, well, how did that soul get to heaven? And I said, I don't know, honey, I don't know how that happens. That's a mystery, but I believe that the soul went to heaven. And he said, Mommy, next time somebody dies, I want to be there because I want to show you how that soul gets to heaven. Maybe children come into the world knowing and they unlearn it. I don't know. But over the years, my kids, we talked about it all the time. When my mom died and Kellen was 3.5 and Trevor was 2 years younger, I said, I found the notes just like 2 days ago. And because I wrote it down, I wanted to remember it. And I said, we're going to have a funeral for a grandma. And he goes, I want to come. And I said, yeah, you can come, honey. But Mommy will be crying. And he goes, Mommy, that's okay. You can cry. You'll cry really hard because it'll be sad. You'll have to see your mommy and you'll have to say goodbye. Mm-hmm. How did he know that? He knew that intuitively in his heart, and he knew that because we talked about death. My kids are not afraid of going to someone's funeral. It's not comfortable, but they go, they speak, they hug, they love on people because they learned that grief and loss are a part of life. And so if we protect children from this, we don't do them any favors.
Thank you. Now the next question, how can we take care of families that are dealing with big feelings of rage because they feel that their baby passed due to a medical decision that was made?
Anger is going to be there anyway. It just might come later. So I go back to my 5 principles. You take some breaths and you face it. You find someone who they will speak with, because if they feel like the doctor made a decision or they were forced to make a decision and the doctor gave the news, or, something happened that was the fault of the hospital or, whatever, they need a safe person to speak with. It might be a social worker. It might be a pastor, clergy, but someone addresses it with them and says, you seem very angry. Tell me about what that anger is about and why. And then let's talk about what we can do about that. I say to people, if you're upset with someone outside of yourself, write a letter to them. Tell them what went well, if there was anything that went well, and tell them to put in there what really hurt or what you're really angry about, and get it out of you. Get it out and send it somewhere. Do something. A lot of people who work in this field of baby loss or care, cancer care, whatever, they have angry feelings and they decided to do something with it. They have sad feelings or angry feelings and they decided to do something about it. So what do you want to do about it? You know what? It's too soon. You're in the middle of all this shock and pain. But how about if we make an appointment and I sit with you in a couple of weeks and we talk about it? That anger is normal. Normalize it, legitimize it, but then let's talk about what to do with that, because you want it to be something constructive. You don't want it to where they hurt somebody, themselves or someone in their family or someone else. So believe it, face it, and tell them it's normal. It's normal. That helps to ease it a little bit sometimes.
Thank you.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias a todos. We don't have more questions. Ilse, thank you very much for sharing your experience and knowledge. It was a talk that has raised our hearts. You taught us a lot today. Thank you. And we hope to have you on a next occasion. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias a todos los asistentes por conectarse. Les invitamos a estar atentos de nuestras redes para que conozcan más eventos que realizaremos el programa de cuidado paliativo pediátrico y los otros servicios de nuestra institución, Fundación Valle del Lili. Un abrazo para todos y buen día.